If you say defections are the word of the year in Nigeria politics, you may be correct. 8 governors abandoned the parties they started out with this year, with 7 of them opting to join the ruling APC from the main opposition PDP. Lawmakers also increasingly defected to the APC, weakening opposition in many states. This year, a new opposition coalition joined the field. The ADC coalition is hoping to defeat President Tinubu and win in 2027. But as excitement over its emergence faded, questions are growing about its cohesion, leadership, and ability to translate momentum into a viable national challenge. Then came Rivers State, where a deep political crisis led to unprecedented federal intervention. The suspension of elected officials and the eventual party defection of the governor raised sharp questions about constitutional limits and the balance of power. What a year it's been, and with me to look back on all these events are the policy strategist and Group CEO of the Global Investment and Trade Company, the erudite Baba Yusuf, and the legislative consultant and public policy analyst par excellence, Dr. Chibuzo Okereke. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
What a year indeed it's been. Let's talk politics first. PDP down to just about 3 governors out of the 11 that went to court on the Rivers issue. Baba?
Yeah, well, I know the PDP people don't want to hear this, but we're saying that the party is in tatters and is basically winding down, given the political trend in Nigeria and the political disposition and character of Nigerian politicians. Suffice it to say that, yes, the ruling party is playing a game to ensure it is basically running all over the place. But also historical antecedents show that this is the trend, and that's why I called it a trend. Remember, during the heydays of PDP, around this kind of time also, they had about 20-something governors as well, and you saw those movements. And that is why I talk about the character and disposition of Nigerian politicians. Indeed, majority of Nigerian politicians do not want to earn their place, do not want to pay their dues. They are basically political front loaders, and I call them political gallivanters. All they want is where it is easy, low-hanging fruits, and that is to tell you deeply what are actually their ideologies or principles of joining politics in the first instance.
If they have
it's all about
anyway.
what they call SOMAC infrastructure.
If they have any. You just touched on the next thing I was going to talk about. At the time, PDP had between 28 to 31 governors, 31 states, you know. It isn't new, like he just said, but is there a difference this time around?
Well, I don't think there's any difference. If you remember, in the 4th Assembly, the ruling party occupied both the majority and minority positions in the National Assembly. And like Baba Yusuf said, I don't think anybody today, except a few, is willing to make the kind of sacrifice the current president made in staying, his kind of staying power and the character and understanding of the Nigerian political, ecosystem, building structures, being patient over the years. If you are a taker and you are not a giver, it's difficult for you to survive in opposition. You must be a giver, to survive, and that is by being convinced that there is a future for your kind of politics, for your ideology, and for the kind of leadership
When
you
say
want
giver,
to.
what do you mean?
Be sacrificing, putting your own resources,
All right.
out there, building, because like it's not about low-hanging fruit. Where is it happening so that we'll be there, right?
So the picture attend
we
there.
have an example of somebody who is the current president who sacrificed. He had all the opportunity and the offer, and he has been there, playing into the. When I look at people, I remember in the 8th Assembly during the speakership election, people say, "Oh, National Assembly members showed how independent they were." I laugh because they were unseen hands playing from outside, ensuring that those things come to play. So if you want to make opposition work, you must be willing to sacrifice. In 2011, I was at INEC office monitoring how the opposition coalition at the time, ACN, came together to protest over Anambra election that got Chris Ngige into power. So today, you can't do opposition by issuing press statement alone. Anybody can issue press statement. You must go out and organize. You know, you must. I remember, I think during this APC caucus meeting, somebody said, "Thank God the current president is not in opposition now." Because he has demonstrated character and capacity in leading opposition. And if you want opposition to work, you need people who are ready to be givers, who are ready to sacrifice, who are ready to be convinced about their own political ideology.
And that raises the issue of how this trend, which you called it, which is what it is impacting our democracy. Is it impacting our democracy negatively or positively? If you remember the days of the House of Representatives Speaker that stood his ground. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Galina Abba.
Galina Abba.
Memory,
good,
yes.
Good.
Killed the third term.
Yeah,
agenda.
he stood his ground on some certain principle. He had principle. Do you see that now? And then, like I asked, how is this impacting our democracy?
Well, first of all, it's obviously impacting negatively. The principle and the concept behind democracy is participatory politics, and to have the principles of checks and balances to ensure that there is no absolute power in the hands of one person or a group of people. It appears we are going to be having a situation that may be worse or close to a dictatorial or monarchical system. Why am I saying was? Because we have the option to have a participatory democracy. The constitution, the provisions are there, the political parties are there, the environment is there, albeit the principal actors for almost 40, 50 years have been freeloaders, frontloaders of our economy and polity. And they don't want to make any commitment. They don't want to make any sacrifices, like Dr. Chibuzo said. And that is the key issue. You see, if you go back to the beginning of the Fourth Republic to date and look at all the dramatis personae, whether it is within the PDP or other political parties, you will see a common trait amongst all of them. If you take PDP, for example, the principal actor that should have held the PDP today, with all profound respect, is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President, Wazirin Adamawa, that has moved from one party to other. I've lost count, right? These are people that can afford to financially, mentally, and emotionally have the stay power within a political party. You have a situation whereby a former leading political party in this country, the PDP, was struggling and arguing about paying ground rent of their secretariats. That speaks volume about the kind of people. And that is how they opened the opportunity for Eyanson Wike to come and take over the party and be paying those dues, and now to be claiming ownership of the party in a way and becoming a keg clog in the wheel of their progress. They created the scenario, right? And all the other dramatic personnel within the PDP also did not make any key financial input per se, or critical commitment to the party, because it is one leg in, one leg out, and you cannot be able to, at this point in time, with the kind of person we have in the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, really flex your muscles and be able to have an effective opposition that will counter the ruling party. And it is very bad for Nigerians, because at the end of the day, we are moving borderline absolute power, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
You've raised a danger, an issue that just occurred to me now. I remember that in the United States of America, Ocasio-Cortez, when she was running,
yes,
they went door to door, because you're talking about Wike pumping money. Isn't that dangerous to our politics? Is that how? I know that I've heard an international member of the NIIA talk about how our politics have moved to a realm where individuals now
bankroll
from the party.
Yeah.
Isn't that dangerous? Is it the way it ought to be? Is it not supposed to be people funding the party?
Yeah, that's what I talked about, givers and takers. You see, when you have a political party who for 25 years doesn't have a national secretariat, that tells you whether anybody was committed to building an institution that will be resilient, and sustainable. So it's more like, I mean, we are travelers. We don't own this. That's why you can't invest to have a political party that is really a political party with research departments, statistics and data, recruitment, innovation, technology. Everything is supposed to run like a full-fledged organization with brilliant young people as staffers. Now, take a statistics across, or just a survey across the 36 states of the Federation. How many states have their own party secretariat? And some of the states, they have had sway to that party for several years before this wave of defection now. So that is just a point to tell you how that even party members, in fact, most parties today cannot tell you who are their members. And the members, they don't have financial committed members because membership of party has been completely overrun by the money bags. And the people, unfortunately, does not understand. At the heart of democracy is popular participation. That is what gives democracy legitimacy. So if you're a party member and some politician came and say, oh, I'm going to pay all of you their dues for 5 years, and you rejoice, you are actually, waiving your rights within the party. Absolutely. So if you want to build a party, you have to build a party where every 1 naira matters, where every member matters. And I give you an instance, because political parties are not running in this country. Let's be, sincere. How many parties have a schedule where ward meetings are held for governance purpose, not for Congress or primary election purpose? For governance purpose, where party members at the ward level met, have a resolution regarding socio-economic issues, and communicate that to their state assembly member, local government chairman, House of Rep member, senator, down to ministers and that informs policy and policy execution. That is not happening. You can stay 3 years without ward meeting happening, and if they want to hold ward meetings, somebody may need to send money from Abuja to enable them. Many party schools are not being paid.
I'm not stopping you, but a breaking news just coming in that INEC has rejected the Turaki. It was going to be one of my questions because yes. Turaki is going to court to open the secretariat of PDP, which is not lock and key. So the breaking news that INEC has rejected the Turaki-led PDP. Isn't this confusion? I don't understand. So we'll probably get more information as to, okay, who did INEC say is now the bona fide owner or governance of PDP? It's confusing. It's confusing. It's confusing. I'm sure we'll get more information. But yeah, talking about money bags and all that, I was going to say to you, you know this, and I'm personally wondering, as many people outside there are wondering, don't the parties understand what you have just pointed out?
They need to be schooled. Yeah. They need to be schooled.
No, because it's dangerous to our democracy. Money bags have to be stopped. That's not the way democracy in other climes are run, and that's not good for our polity. And if it continues on that trend, then governance will suffer, democracy will suffer. But Makinde says we can support whoever we choose. Well, Makinde is one of the leaders
remnants of the PDP.
The one that has just been rejected by INEC.
Yes.
But he says you can support anyone you choose, but those of us who want the survival of the multi-party democracy and the PDP should be allowed to make our decisions. He was talking about Wike. All right, okay, let's just listen to the sort of what are just the breaking news.
Okay.
All right, let's take it.
The president's chief of staff was also in that meeting, and a few others. And Wike said to the president that, well, sir, I will hold PDP for you, against 2027. I was in shock. So we got up, we got to the veranda. I said, Wike, did we agree to this? I don't like talking about people, and I will not talk about people or talk about events, but I'll talk about the real issue. The real issue is that Wike would like to support the president for 2027. That's fine. It is within his right to do that. But also some of us that want to, ensure that democracy survives in Nigeria. We don't drift into a one-party state, and we want to ensure that PDP survives.
Very interesting points that Makinde is making, and that leads me to my next question. Should Wike be in the PDP and support an APC candidate? Should this obtain in a democracy?
You see, Wike is seizing an opportunity in a polity where the critical players, like we have mentioned earlier, have refused to earn their place and do the needful.
No, but is it right?
Let me backtrack to what you said and answer your question about money politics. Indeed. Everywhere in the world, except we want to be hypocritical about it, talking about the bastions of democracy, the United States of America, United Kingdom, whatnot, money plays a critical role. The question is, the question is, how does it play the role?
Good.
Now, when you have former governors, former ministers, former parliamentarians, former vice presidents, former presidents within a political party that cannot even pay their annual dues, when you have all these people within a political party that cannot build a secretariat, national secretariat, when they cannot even pay the monthly salaries of the national, what do they call them, officers, running the office, just the running cost of the office and paying light bills.
That's a shame.
It creates an opportunity for a young Wike to come and seize the moment. Whether it is right or wrong, you create that opportunity. What person among all of these people can actually fund the party without necessarily doing it the wrong way? But in the absence of that, how do you want somebody in Abakaliki or in municipal local government in Kano or in Lagos to go and pay the monthly dues or annual dues in a PDP or APC? Having said that, let me remind us of what a renowned writer, Rohini Lenekali, said about democracy. Because, you see, we like talking and wishing. You cannot wish democracy. You cannot wish away President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You need to act. And this goes to all the principal players in this so-called opposition. And she says, and I quote, and of course the citizens, we cannot be mere consumers of good governance. We must be participants. We must be co-creators. As citizens, we have to co-create good governance. We cannot outsource it and hope to be passively happy consumers of good governance. Like everything worth its while, good governance must be earned. And to that extent,
which is why he was talking about givers.
Givers. And to that extent,
sacrifices.
You heard His Excellency Makinde what he said. Right? Yes, that is easier said than done, because it is not a Makinde issue, it's not a Wike issue. It is a team effort. You look around, you call 5 with your right hands or left hand, 5 principal political players in this country at the highest level, and look behind them and tell me critical stakeholders across Nigeria that have been their co-travelers for the past 20 years or the beginning of Fourth Republic, and I'll tell you, those are the people that have the state power, whether for the good or the wrong reasons.
Mentorship.
Performance is not measured by events. Performance are measured by impacts and successes. So to that extent, I will expect not just the PDP itself. You just heard the breaking news about the Turaki-led faction. Yeah. That is what I said earlier on, that it is almost going over because they cannot do it. You see the ADC. Since the formation of the ADC, they have been malingering around. Right? You see what is happening to Labour Party. Are you now going to blame the ruling party, the APC, for the woes of all the opposition parties? I'm angry about this because, you see, we are coming to the TV and lying to ourselves. If we are true Nigerians and we want Nigerians to change, we cannot be paying lip service or trying to be politically correct. It is a collective failure. It is a failure of a people called the politicians of this country, and by extension, a failure of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because we allow these people to be playing this game with us, whether as parliamentarians or as the executive. Unless we change that mindset, this will continue, and obviously it is going to get worse in the coming months or days.
And that's why I will ask the question, is Nigeria becoming a one-party state, which is dangerous?
Well, let me say this. Administratively speaking, I have never seen in my life an institution like INEC. The opacity and the audacity with which they operate. You know, so we are having a big challenge in this country today where even Supreme Court judgments are giving strict interpretations.
Yes.
And that's why, and when these things happen, we begin to blame maybe ruling party, president, and because it's easy way to, you know, get out of a systemic failure that we're facing.
Systemic.
An institution that doesn't reply any letter you write to them, an institution that can wake up and tell you, oh, we recognize these people.
You're talking from experience.
We recognize these
people. You have written them and they didn't reply you. Is that what you're saying?
I understand the process, and it's a big challenge. You just said, oh, breaking news. INEC rejects recognition of so. You begin to ask yourself, what type of power do they, you know, have to make this determination when the cases are in court? If we want to do democracy, we must go back to the principles of rule of law.
Now you're raising an issue. The cases are in court.
The cases are in court, and then INEC jumps out and says, we reject this, we refuse to recognize this. We, you know, even when they have people who have left political party leadership for several years in their website, nobody is attending to them. So for me, the kind of power INEC is showing, yes, when it comes to conducting an election, introducing technology, we can say they are making some level of improvement. But the way they manage the administration of political parties is very dangerous.
And manage elections
and so
too.
INEC cannot be helping court to determine what is legitimate and what is not.
A very
For
good place
Christ's sake, they are under the law, even as an institution. It's the creation of an act of the National Assembly. In fact, the other day, their chairman was confirmed by the Senate.
Absolutely.
So they are subject to the laws of this country. They cannot create their own word and begin to. And not just because of this so-called rejection. It's just how they have been managing activities of, political. For instance, the people who say they want to register new parties, where are we in it? Despite the prescriptions of the law. When a constituency has lost a seat, the law says 3 months, you need to conduct election. It doesn't happen. INEC can wake up after 1 year plus and then decide to do by-election. In which country does that happen?
Doctor,
and you want democracy to work?
Doctor, you keep raising issues that seem to be elementary, that we should know, we should take for granted. But you're wondering, how come the practitioners of the system don't understand this? Well, we'll get to, we'll be back in a bit, but before we go and come back, we lost our president. First Yar'Adua, then Buhari. Buhari went. So when we get back, we're going to talk about legacies. We're going to talk about what leaders present learned from the death of these men as it concerns governance. All right, you're still watching All Right, it's Prime Time. Plenty more still to come. Don't go away. All right, glad to have you back. You're still watching All Right, it's Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I am Md Amogu. Still with me in the studio for a review of the top political stories of the year are the policy strategist and group CEO of the global investment and trade company, Erudite Baba Yusuf, and the legislative consultant and public policy analyst par excellence, Dr. Chibuzo Okereke. Gentlemen, good to still have you here. We're discussing behind the scene, and what we were discussing were quite interesting. But you wanted to complete, before I come back to you, sorry, you wanted to complete something on Nigeria becoming one party. Am I right?
Yeah. So, based on the comment that
Makindeme.
So he said Governor Wike promised the president that he's going to hold, PDP for him. And for me, that's an admittance that as a party, that party has failed. And I can predict to you that PDP can only resurrect in 2028, 29, 30, ahead of 2031. Because His Excellency Makinde was part of the G5, who insisted that power must come to South. They met and supported the president to win. He also said in that statement that he brought a ministerial nominee and the president rejected the person and gave to another person and asked him to manage the party, and he said no. So if you admit that one man made a promise to the president that shocked you, that he was going to hold a party for him, ahead of 2027, and it appears that is happening, and there is no capacity within the system, it's about what Baba Yusuf mentioned. That vacuum that Governor Wike came in, stepped in, funded the party, took over the structure, So if you want a lesson, people must now begin to come together as a team to invest and sacrifice, and not hope that somebody will cater for your interest or your will. Because you see,
a money back.
The idea of
I have many topics that I want to be. There's
one
tax
party
reform,
state or otherwise is another social construct that politicians have designed, right? And they are out there because the internal issues within them are worse than the external issues. And
Baba
this is the
Yusuf,
challenge.
Like I said earlier before we took the break, we lost one president, Adua. Now we lost Buhari this same year. Now the question is his legacy and what legacy he has left behind, and then the question of leaders learning from the experience of death. Power is transient, and as it relates to governance and working for the people.
I would say something, and it's pun intended. Politicians hardly care about death. Death for politicians, with profound respect to most of them, let me not generalize, majority of them, and not just Nigeria, across the world. Death for them is an event to be taken advantage of for political gravitas and advantage. One. Two, because death provides an opportunity for a new political leader to fill in that space. Morally, emotionally, and spiritually, it is absolutely wrong. But then, politicians time and time again are demonstrating to us that that morality, that spirituality, maybe it should be put aside. And this is across all parties. This is across all countries, right? And that is why drawing lessons from the death of a leader, in this context, you talk about President Yar'Adua of blessed memory, President Buhari of blessed memory, is mostly, you see what is going on. His death has become a commercial venture, sorry to say. Everybody is writing books and they are launching it. And yes, you can draw lessons from there, but you also see some kind of quasi-commissioning of these books. So you have to be very sharp and smart to assimilate and separate the wheat from the chaff within context of those books of what is true and what are narratives that are thrown in there, either to launder the image of somebody or for somebody to sell an idea. Having said that, the right thing to be done is for us to draw the lessons, because indeed all of us are crew travelers to the great beyond. And when death comes, whether as a Muslim or Christian or even a free thinker, that should be a time of introspection, that no matter the power you wield, whether as president or whatever, you will one day leave the office either alive or dead, as we have seen, in Nigeria.
Very fantastic.
Then that is for you and me, and for those that want to rationalize or want to moralize, for politicians.
They don't think like that.
If not, Nigeria won't be where it is today. And that is from independence to now, not just this administration.
We've mentioned ADC. I think you mentioned it somehow in passing. So let's not dwell on it. Let's talk about reverse state of emergency. One thing I'll bring about that is the fact that the NAS, National Assembly, gave the president go ahead with a voice vote against the Constitution.
Well, we've spoken about that extensively. You see, the National Assembly has that responsibility.
And today, the person in question is now an APC governor.
Absolutely. So, but the point is, constitutionally speaking, they have a responsibility to discharge their duties. However, the National Assembly is organized in majority and minority parties. You would expect that the majority party in NAS would like to support the president's decision to declare state of emergency and move. But what about the opposition parties? What we are teaching as experts in that domain is that you don't stage a walkout. Walkout does not. You have to go into the standing orders of the Senate or House of Representatives, and they bring out, the provisions as prescribed on what should be the procedure. For instance, if you are moving a motion regarding a quorum for that passage of ratification of the state of emergency proclamation, you have to, land your position with a motion that the House to divide to take a quorum, so that we will know whether they form quorum or otherwise. The same thing as prescribed in the standing order, that if in the matter of this nature, if you are dissatisfied, because the voice vote is a valid means of ruling in NAS. That is a fact.
No, but
however, the two-thirds prescribed, an opposition member will have to raise that point of order that the senator is in breach of his own procedure.
So what you're then invariably saying is the question that Baba Yusuf is, the point he's making, that for politicians, morality is not considered.
In fact, I wanted to make a point regarding the issue of legacy of President Buhari or otherwise, on debt, right? His legacy has been controversial over time. Now it's even a contested area. And some politicians behave like, when you see armed robbers go on rampage, and maybe there are 4, and somebody was killed, they'll say he didn't jump when he's supposed to jump. In other words, 3 people will get more. They don't care that somebody had died, but that now that this person is not there, 3 people will now get, more. And that is what we need to look at. The privileges of office, right, is so overwhelming, so attractive in our system. It appears if a politician in office is not driving the latest car, that person, there's some kind of status symbol within our public service system.
Competition.
And that is a very big challenge.
Baba Yusuf, let's discuss the budget. Budgets, the question of operating multiple budgets in a single year. In 2024, Nigeria operated 3. In 2025, 2. 24 and 25. And even the budget just presented by the president how many days ago will not fully come into effect until March. That's according to the state spokesperson, that amount. I spoke to him here. He said what they're trying to do now is to stop it, but that this 2026 budget is going to move, 2025 is going to move until March, the first quarter, before the 2026 comes into operation.
This didn't start with the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I've been writing and speaking about this for over 15 years. And what are the issues? It's clear case of fiscal indiscipline. There is no way, you don't paint, you don't put a lipstick on a pig, for it to look better. It's the reality. And what I have kept on reminding our leaders, which they know, we mentioned earlier whether they don't, most of the time it's a function of political expediency, indeed. Fiscal discipline is what ensures, first of all, the planning process of the budget is done properly. Your assumptions are proper, right? Even if you are doing audacious style, which is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's style of, if you see the numbers they use, they peg them with audacious vision, not conservative. But then how you sequence the execution of the budget, executive line, legislation line, is very key to the success of that budget and tracking the performance of that budget. And what is fiscal discipline? To ensure that you are doing a budget with a very rational, conservative, projection, and to ensure where and if there is potential, reason why you will not be able to achieve it, to adjust, and to ensure you don't overspend beyond your income, beyond your revenue, to ensure you don't have leakages within the framework, fiscal framework. Budget padding is a critical issue within our fiscal framework, for example.
I'm going to have to stop you there so we can move on to the next because my time is
So
running.
bottom line is fiscal discipline is the common denominator.
Which they don't seem to have.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. The MBA and Atiku, with all the imbroglio, the hullabaloo on the tax reform, the MBA and Atiku are raising concerns over what they call alleged unconstitutional alterations to the recently enacted laws. Atiku says it should be suspended, accuses the executive of undermining legislative supremacy. Now, a member of the House was the one who raised the issue, Dasuki. He alleged discrepancies between the tax laws passed by the NAS and versions gazetted and released to the public. The presidency is kicking, says no, nothing of such. The chairman of the task, fiscal and tax reform, Taiwo Loyede, says the greatest challenge that the tax reform is facing is misinformation. Who should inform who? I mean, what do you even say about this tax reform?
So this is very simple. It's not a difficult situation, and it's not the first time there will be some allegation regarding variation between what National Assembly had passed and the position and what the executive may have assented to. So we have the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act 2017. Section 18 actually prescribed for anybody who prints false version of a law, it can pay fine of 2 million, which we believe it should be reviewed as small, or 1 year imprisonment. So it's a crime. One. Now there is a law we have known as Art Authentication Act 1962. It gives the clerk of the National Assembly the power to produce and the standing orders, the clean copy. Because you know, under Section 58, for both the House and the Senate must pass the same version or harmonize. When they harmonize, the clerk produces the clean copy of the bill and sends for assent. Now, when it's assented to, it will go for enrollment, right? And the Attorney General oversees that enrollment. Now, you don't suspend the law that has been assented to, because you are not telling us we are in a monarchical state, not a constitutional democracy. Even the honorable member that raised the issue, he came under point of explanation. He would have come with a substantive motion that will lead to an investigation. And this is also what we...
But the Speaker has set up a seven-man committee.
Yeah, the Speaker, did that, but there was no substantive motion to that effect, but it's good. However, you don't suspend the law. What you do is to repeal and enact. Once it is established, first, culpable people must face the law, and then what National Assembly will do to correct it is to bring it back to a committee and then look at those mischievous drafting areas, insertions, or what have you, and make sure that a clean copy is passed. And it's also about institutional reform. We have been hearing about this. So what should we do? Is to also make sure that people do their job correctly. Because right now it's in the realm of allegation. But it's also good that the Nigerian people are aware. Are there circumstances where legislative position is tampered with
now
outside?
You've actually asked the question
that
Baba Yusuf should answer, which I wanted to put to him.
Yes.
Something wrong is happening here. He says it's criminal. It should be punished because it's
under the law is a crime actually. Yeah.
What should Nigerians expect? Is it from both the NAS and the presidency? Nigerians need to know.
Well,
shouldn't we know?
To be honest with you, I was flabbergasted, is to say the least, when I saw this development, because everybody that knows me knew that, at the risk of my life, I supported this tax reform. I'm from the core north, and you understand what it means for me to be at the forefront of this. Not for anything, because we believe if we pass it the way personally I know it is, that's the way to go. Now, for us to see this very important news flash coming, I got worried. Why? Because why should we have that? Why? Because you see, this is not just another enactment of law, Dr. Ndi. This is a paradigm shift against, you know, the will of a lot of people, not because they don't want the change, but because they are suspicious of whether it will work or not. Why don't we build confidence? Why don't we win more people? Why are we bringing this? I feel bad because it appears all the work that was done is being self-sabotaged by some people within the establishment, not from the opposition. The opposition is seizing the moment to do what they do, right? And the NBA is doing what it should do. What is important here is, are there discrepancies between the signed law and the one that I was a proponent
That's
of?
the important
and
thing.
And if there are, how do we address this issue?
Exactly.
Now, pushing it aside and making it look as a non-issue is insulting the intelligence of Nigerians. And that we will not accept. Personally, as an advocate of this tax reform, we need to deal with these issues, deal with them decisively so that we can regain the confidence of the people. And more importantly, I dare say, the communication strategy of the implementation of this tax reform need to be robust and more upgraded. The way it is going now, good. I don't think it is going the right way for people to accept it. And what is critical is for this, for the government to know, people should accept your policy. This is a democracy. And the way people should accept this policy is in your change management process, which is part of the paradigm shift. Is the communication strategy should be robust, should be deep, should not be superficial, and should not be dismissive.
Good. Thank you so much. Just a quick one. Kashim Shettima, there's been talk about, is he going to be the vice president come 2027 or not? Quickly, a quick one. What do you think about the politics around Kashim Shettima and the president?
Well, for every politician, the calculation is to win. And the president has been very smart and strategic about how to win. So if the political climate allows Shettima to contribute to that victory, of course, you know how he came. Yeah. Right? A placeholder and then him, you know. But it will cause a lot of challenges. However, let the best strategists win.
What do you think?
I don't think there will be much change because changing it may also, it has its pros and cons, but I think the cause will be more negative, you know,
than positive.
Than positive.
Okay, so you're saying that he may still retain his place.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. The group policy strategist and group CEO of the Global Investment and Trade Company, erudite Baba Yusuf. Always interesting listening to you. Just break these things down so well. And then, of course, the legislative consultant. That's why he became a doctor, public policy analyst par excellence, Dr. Chibu. So always interesting listening to you. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.